Well, hello, friends. Um, I've been doing these things, these videos, all by myself, and there's been a urge in me that has been wanting to combine and connect with people out there. Um, One of the reasons why is a lot of people, I think, have given the impression of like, who is this person? Are right. And yes, I am not well known, and I don't think you need to be well known. It's it's a case of just wanting to be known well, and I do. I want to. I think humanity in general, as individuals, there's some sort of interest in them to be known well to the people around them. And this is really what I'm offering here with this channel is an opportunity for people to be known well. Yesterday, there was a group session that was going to happen. And with a bunch of people that I'm aware of through Facebook. And I didn't really know how to connect with it. So I went on Messenger and I kind of hit the button where these people were supposed to get together. And lo and behold, Fintan came up on the screen. This is Fintan Clarke, a fellow
All
who
right.
has a desire also to be known well. And we got talking. We are from the same sort of age group and everything. And we decided, what the heck? Let's do a video together. So it sort of happened by chance, if that's possible. And those synchronicities seem to work out the best, I find. So what we did get talking about yesterday, and we'd like to throw out there, we don't know exactly where we're going with it, but we is us being, we were in the X generation, and we got talking about the challenges of our lives being in that generation, of things that when growing up we came from a very fundamentalist is the word that comes to me. Maybe there's a better word for it. Time in the 70s where it was celebrated to follow your leadership of those around you, whether it be political leaders, family members, mothers and fathers, schools, education systems, all of those things like that. It was celebrated would be probably not the best word. It was almost expected, I guess, would be the better word. And we started talking about our journey through that and how it affected our lives. We were actually talking this morning too, and I'd like to go delve into the conversation this morning about um, uh, there's Bruce Lipton. If you go to the my Facebook page called the Oneness Spirit Guide, which I still don't know why I called it up, and I'm sticking with it. uh, we have I put a Bruce Lipton's work on there, and he talks about, and many psychologists and so on and so forth have. I just find that he really spoke of it well. That the first 7 years of our lives creates the template for our subconsciousness, and we generally react and do and make our lives based around that that template. Um, so what we were talking about is this kind of, people use the word awakening, and I think there's something inside of us that I think that surpasses that template that we call awakening, where now we have a generation that's called the woke generation, correct? Right? Yeah, they're woke. Whoa, they're celebrating this awakening that, hey, maybe this template isn't everything it's made out to be. So you had another fellow, that Canadian fellow that seems to be on the same page as Bruce Lipton, right? Fenton?
Yes. Yeah, his name is Gabor Mate, Mate. And
Okay.
he's a great resource. I believe he's eminently qualified for people who want people with degrees. He has incredible content that's available. If people go to YouTube and, make of it what you will. one of the things is everybody's mileage varies. So I put it out there with a good intention that he can help people understand a term that you coined, Steve, or you referred to from Bruce Lipton, templating. And yeah, so thank you for that thought.
Yeah. It's an interesting, I suppose, for me anyways, I would have called it a struggle. And that struggle comes from many places. As I started coming to this desire or awakening, I suppose, that the template that was given to me may not have been best for my human survival. And I will go as far as to say that as being an addict, it was literally that. Uh, survival meaning whether I wanted to or not. Uh, it was a struggle to disengage from that because of the relationships involved. We're talking my parents, teachers that I knew, very close friends, all of those things like that. Um, I seem to, especially for my first, say from the time my teens up until I was 30, wrestle with this concept constantly and flip back and forth on it. And for the most part, the template sort of won. Would you agree with that? Would you say basically the same thing or identify with that anyways?
Well, I definitely identify with it. And yeah, in order to make sure that relationships functioned, you had to at least know how to play by the template or play by the rules, whether or not publicly or privately you agreed with them. You did some picking and choosing if you were fortunate, but generally, yeah, you need to figure out how to get along.
Yeah. And I'm going to be really interested, and I hope we can have some dialogue in the comment section here, or maybe in future videos for people that have come in different from different like millennials and different age groupings that they found the same thing. I know in my generation, it was a very stoic belief system that we follow our education system, medical industry, doctors, and so on and so forth. The authorities in our life were to be followed and listened to. To do otherwise would be absolutely foolish. That's I can't put it any different than that. That was really it. They were you were it, I was looked down upon for any instigation towards thinking otherwise or questioning the ideas or I wouldn't call it beliefs because they didn't believe it was a belief. The factual information given to me by these systems. And I quite often would question it and then just subside into that belief and believe it. Now, looking back on it, I think I was forcing myself to believe it for the reasons you just said, to try to be engaged with the people that I was involved with and have a connection with that. Like I felt like I would lose that connection by their disapproval. Would you understand?
I do. Definitely, you would either lose it or you would put it in jeopardy. And sometimes, in order for people to know something's important to you, you have to, be willing to stir the pot a little, to use an image. And if they know, hopefully, it's a good relationship and they want to maintain the relationship with you, that by you stirring the pot or challenging the rules or asking some questions, they think, hey, Steve's got a good point. Maybe that imprint or rule or guideline that I passed on when Steve was young, maybe it didn't apply or maybe it no longer applies. And hopefully through communication, you can have a dialogue to reevaluate. oh yeah, that part of the playbook doesn't apply anymore. Or it does, or maybe a bit apply and a bit not apply. Maybe there needs to be some adaptation.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Communication is obviously a big word there. It's communication was a difficult process when going into those areas. Um, just before we finished, you started on a really good point, and I think maybe the for this, especially for this generation, or this time, I should say, for this time might be maybe the greatest issue to use to express this when you started talking about sexuality. Would you like to expound upon that?
Okay, so in a world where most people think that there are two forms of sexuality, um, introducing some new ones, right? It can make some people go yes, no, or maybe. And uh, the whole idea of introducing that um, inside an existing relationship, so let's say family and or parents, some parents, they don't know how to handle that. Some parents may, in handling it, may screw up, right? They may go no, or maybe they'll be like, I don't know, maybe, versus, you know what, son or daughter of mine, I'm here for you. Let's talk about it and we can figure this out. So, yeah, that's a big issue.
Yeah, I could go into my past on that specific topic, um, because I would agree that's a very good one. And you have, like, if you go through the decades, the evolution of the understanding of sexuality, generally speaking, I mean, almost like the elephant in the room here is we're talking basically about homosexuality. Very few people look disparagingly towards uh, heterosexuality, although the activities within that concept certainly had like marriage and all of that kind of stuff like that applies here as well. Um, but it was my understanding in my early template, I suppose, that homosexuality was just simply a choice, and it was a wrong choice, and people had they were confused, and all of these things that ways of looking at it. And even from a young age, that although I had this template in me, it seemed to be like this. You used the term a bubbling inside of me. That
Thank you. Yes, I remember that now.
yeah, a bubbling inside of me that said something was amiss. You know, something was amiss with this template. Something was just not right. Didn't There was so many questions I had that about the information given to me that I couldn't formulate in any way except for something's not right. That's really
Hmm.
what it was. Something wasn't right with it. I left the house, and looking back on it now, I don't really realize how almost courageous this was. And I think this word has to come out here. There's a courageousness that goes against these templates. There's a point where the where that bubbling inside of you overtakes the craving for connection with those that gave you the template. You understand? And I moved into a person's house who I knew was my first house that I lived in. I knew was gay,
Hmm.
and I didn't. I wanted. I went, and this did not sit well. That way with the people that it did not sit well at all. But I think that's a really good point because it's almost like it was the first time in my life when I decided to make a conscious effort to go against the subconscious template that was created in me, that was not, yeah, I guess created, or that I was grew up in, and it was confusing. I thought it was going to be like, well, I went into it as an exciting adventure, and now looking back, it certainly was. But when I went into it, it was actually, the word I could only use is tormenting.
Yeah, it sounds like you were either being asked to, or you asked yourself, or both, to make some choices. And it's like, oh, I don't know. And there's unknown in making those choices. And that's, yeah, definitely tormenting. It's certainly
Yeah,
more tormenting than, uh, do I ask for coffee or tea? That some people, that's a tough decision, but
yeah.
that one, most people can manage.
What was tormenting about it was immersing myself into this concept or idea or way of being, and realizing that this template that was put into me, that I had grown up in, was falling apart.
Ooh, yeah, yeah. Pieces of it weren't working anymore for you.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not just the connection with my family. There's a connection I think I found a connection within myself that was being disturbed. Like, could how much of this is wrong? You know, because it's part of me. It almost feels like I'm not right. I'm not something. There's something missing in me. Something confusing about me. Something, dare I say, bad.
Well,
About me.
so I'm very pleased that you used that word, bad, because a very important way to figure stuff out is you gotta go through things, or at least I strongly encourage you go through things. The degree to which you go through them, it depends. Everybody's, I don't know, time, place, resources. So you figure it out by going through that. You know, you started off with bad, and maybe eventually you came out the other side and realized, not so sure. Bad, good, like you evolved.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely by taking the uh, conscience, I suppose, decision to go venture into that area. Um, it certainly it confused my mind, and that confusion remained on where I would go one side or the other quite a bit, and eventually, all of this through all of this time, I was still living in the templates previously that I had my original template. I was doing a job that I was not satisfied in. I was a workaholic. I was basically all the aholics, which was a constant thing throughout my family. And so it started opening up my eyes to maybe these things weren't. I wanted to be a philosopher, a psychologist, or something of that nature. My parents said, well, treated it as if there's no work in that. Like, you can't, there's no assurity that there's a job on the other side. There's not, the word that comes to me is concrete. I came from a concrete place in time where if it wasn't, concrete was good. If it was concrete, if it was set in stone, then that's the path that is best to follow, because it's the most sure path as far
Mm-hmm.
as what they were thinking. And I started realizing that this concrete structure that had been ingrained in me, like, I guess the word is right, was crumbling apart. And now, what if that crumbles? Where's the concrete? You know, it was very scary. It was very scary. And I now that I'm talking to you, I lived a very in a lot of anxiety for much of my life. And I think this is where it stemmed from. Did you have a similar experience from your perspective as well?
Wow. So I generally challenge things. So so yeah, there was a lot of concrete and structure around me, and I figured out how to kind of work within that, but also explore outside of it. One of the challenges I had was I wanted to explore outside it and then come back inside the structure and share. Hey, mom, dad, um,
Right.
what about this? Dangerous, very dangerous.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the difficulty we would find in this in that time was that it was very difficult to find people that you could express these thoughts to. I mean, even in schools and stuff, people would. I might have had some teachers that would say something to the effect of, "Well, uh, those are interesting concepts," but they almost always would turn it around to, "We've already gone through them. That's where how we've come to this now. That's why we're teaching you what we're teaching you, is because we've already analyzed this. It's already been thought of. Everything's been thought of. This is like the final. This is it. It's cool that you're thinking about things we've already thought about, but we've come to the final conclusion. So it's probably best just to listen to us." And that seemed to be the idea at the time, that that's why you would just listen to them, because they've gone through all this. And you see it today in so many different ways, but from a different perspective, because it appears to me, and like I said, listeners out there, you can please comment on the bottom if I'm incorrect. It seems like we're in an age now where questions are valued more than answers.
Hmm. So questions valued more than answers. I'm gonna have to chew on that one for a while because I'm not sure where I could go with that one. I do know that something I heard routinely is there are no bad questions, stupid questions,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so I encourage people to bring forth their questions, and I encourage people to figure out who to trust with bringing those questions. That is important because time, place, audience, you know, for example, if you are doing something totally new and the person you're speaking with likely has no idea what you're talking about. So you come to them with a question, it's like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you're talking about. So you have to kind of feel around to form the question. And there's some uncertainty in that, some awkwardness in that. There's also, if you want to choose a nice word or a different word for that, there's some curiosity in that. There's
Yeah.
some newness in that. So if you're speaking with somebody and they're cool with newness and curiosity, awesome. You're probably going to have it fostered. And if
Hmm.
you're speaking with somebody who's like, uh-oh, I'm an authority figure and maybe I'm threatened by this. So, what's the message I'm going to send back to that person? So, great idea about having questions. It's just, you know, what is the question and who are you bringing that to? Who's your audience?
Yeah, I think I think maybe what I'm trying to get at is it seems more accepted. Questioning seems more accepted now. And you brought up awkwardness and stuff, and I think this really maybe exemplifies the issue that of that time period was some. Have you heard of Brene Brown?
Yes, Brené Brown. Woohoo! Vulnerability. Yes.
That's it. Exactly. That's what was not the case. A vulnerability at that in my early generation, where growing up, was considered a weakness. And so people of authority had a almost I wouldn't even say a hard time, almost impossible time to say these three wonderful words that spring creativity into our environment. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can phrase it as like, I don't know, or I don't know.
I don't
Right?
know.
Same
Or I don't
thing.
know. Or I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
And I'd like to say one of the persons who's been incredibly helpful in my life. His name is Hugh Comer Ford. Um, he would give me a tool to work with that sort of stuff. So somebody comes to me with something and I say, tell me more. Let's talk about it. Tell me more. And that is so helpful when I know I don't know. And if I want to engage that person in a discussion, instead of saying, I don't know, I go, tell me more, Stephen. And then we have this incredible conversation.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Brene Brown's concept of vulnerability and shame. She studied shame for 10 years. Was a huge revelation for me. I came across Brene Brown in rehab about a year ago and read a few of her books, and it was astounding. And what we're talking about, seemed to spring up in me through through reading her books about the difficulties that I had in my growth. Um, or I can't say that. My growth would never stop. It just was the way I grew. The way I grew through what was happening at the time. Um, and there was a wonderful thing that I learned from this, because my first instinct when coming to this was to be angry at those people, at people in my past, my school. Why didn't we know this already? And how come we haven't? And all of these things like that. And then a really a counselor that I actually go to on a regular basis, I was talking to him about being enough and living in a not enough mentality and stuff like that. And I said that also that what I'd come to a conclusion of, which never really is a conclusion anymore because I can always change my mind. But what I come to a realization of as of right now, I guess is the best way to put it, is that it was nobody's fault. And that's what I've come to the conclusion of through all of this. It's nobody's fault. Anything. We're only working with the tools that we've been given, including my parents, the school system, the political systems that we have. And viewing it from that perspective, I had to come grounded to the idea that all of us are really trying to do the best we can for ourselves and others. That is the one thing that I think as humans we were this up quite a bit. It's this stuff is these the truth is already in us, or we relate to already through these templates, is that we really are born wanting to have connection, be connected, and do well for each other and ourselves.
I agree. And it's also it's great when people can I guess figure out how it feels feel that, I hope that they feel that it's something that they want more of. I believe some people may have had experiences where that wanting to have more connection, it may not be something that they're comforted with. And for those people, I wish that they can, well, seek connection and overcome that. However, that's me projecting, and that's another topic entirely, right? When a person's ready for that, if they're ready for that, wonderful. So sorry if I went off on a little
No, I
rabbit.
think it completely relates to what we were talking about.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. In my experience, people that we've heard the terms, well, I don't like people very much, or, all of those things like that.
Mhm.
Those are conclusions that have come from, um, I think and the only way to come to that conclusion is to have tried to connect and feeling yourself that you have unsuccessfully done so. And when we're talking about this topic in authority figures, connection as much as anyone else. And through this, so we were to listen to the authorities or believe the authorities for fear that it would break the connection of each other. So that's where the concreteness comes from. Let's just come up with something, we'll call it fact, so we can remain connected. As long, you know what I mean? And anybody that goes against that fact can be weird or odd or whatever, and then they are choosing not to connect. So they're not disconnecting necessarily. I'm not disconnecting from them, or it's not that they don't like me. It's just that they're strange, different, almost to the point in a lot of cases, like we brought up with sexuality, treated as almost inhuman. Because if we can treat people as if they are not of us, then we haven't actually lost the connection. They were just never
Of if they can get 1% impossible. It's like if you can get 1% of that, oh, I'll be thrilled.
yeah.
Because then maybe they'll get 2%. I'm assuming they're going to keep going in that direction, and then I'll be equally thrilled and
But it
just
said
continue.
it only takes a mustard seed. That just stemmed up to me. It only takes a mustard seed of
Yeah.
that belief to keep us uh, keep this oneness reality intact.
Yes.
And I think everybody has a mustard seed of that. It's just
So
will it grow?
so I'm gonna go into the I know, and even depending on if you aren't cool with that term, I believe that the mustard seed is in everyone.
Yeah,
And you know what's kind of cool
I
is
agree.
I think it's the same mustard seed.
It is. Yeah, it is. We're all of one spirit is what I'm looking at in the paradigm I relate to now. That if we watch the videos I've done before this talk, like a lot about that.
Mm.
And like I've said before, I came through this through Christianity, and everybody, I don't believe you have to go read the Bible to come to this concept, because like you said, it's in us already, all of us. We already
Mhm.
know it. I speak to people that come from much different areas of life, places, whatever, that understand this concept from a different perspective, but the concept is still there. Uh, and I just identify with the concept through Christianity, through Jesus as the myth or person or man or whatever he was. Being on the cross to me was a really good example. When as we get more, this mustard seed grows. I have found I've gotten to the point that I love people regardless of how they treat me, and that's really what the cross is about, right? It's about this concept of this. I like what Russell Brand, no Russell, yeah, Russell Brand. He's another guy that I post up there. He says it's the upper level of ourself, this realization that no matter how people treat us, we know inside of us that we are one and that we are love. So anyone that is treating in your perception of something that is could hurt you or harm you is going against what we truly are. Then they're going or how the mustard seed of knowledge is not conscious to them to a point where they would not be able to do that. It's getting to the point now for me personally that I'm simply not trying to be good. I'm just living in the oneness that we all are, and that what comes out of me seems to be really, really loving towards people.
Yeah, yeah. If so, you know what? I want to change that word. If, when,
When
when people um,
that's right, when is good.
identify with, when people feel that, when people um, share that, it's amazing.
Yeah,
And
it
and
is.
it's really a question of when. And I'm not in a rush for myself or for you or for anybody. No
No,
rush.
no,
Now, would I like to have more people in this when space? Oh yeah, bigger community.
absolutely.
Love it.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I believe that's part of what you and I are modeling and embracing.
Yeah, it's this is the heart of I think what we're doing right now is sending the words in some practices, I suppose you would call it. They use the term light, light energy, sending light energy to the environment, and having that light energy touch people, and that their mustard seed, and that mustard seed grows. Um, the more and more, I think it's inevitable. Like you said, it's not an if. This seems to be some sort of journey back to something that was the original. There, I think at one time it's very possible that everybody understood this light or lived in this light, and we somehow deviated from it as a force or self, or came here to realize it again. Maybe it's a con. I heard somebody say it's that maybe we're just constantly going to realize this, because the beauty the beauty is in the doing of this. The all the conflict and separations that come, people coming together, and all of those things like that is what it is what we're this is, and it just endlessly keeps on going this direction forever. I heard that concept before. I'm not sure that's where I'm at right now. But it's an interesting concept for sure. Um, Looking at my life, it, at times it would seem quite tragic.
Oops. Well,
Yeah.
oops.
But that contrast is why it seems tragic. Without the contrast, you got yin and yang and go down that road. I mean, all of those areas, like, yeah, the contrast allows us to experience the beauty of love.
Yeah, yeah. And that contrast, people would call it the past. Um, Being able to and having the intention to look at the past as part of the journey that got you to where you are now. It's kind of like a necessary process. In order to understand grade one, you had to go through, assuming people were able to benefit from education systems, you had to go through kindergarten. So it's a journey, and you know, without being too self-critical, a little self-critical is helpful. A little reflective is very helpful. You know, Ideally, you don't beat yourself up too much, because if you do it too much, you might become bitter, you might become stuck. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that can happen. So hopefully in community, you can say, I did the most bleep thing. And then everybody goes, yeah, so did
Me too.
I.
Yeah. Vulnerability. And
Yeah.
that again goes back to the concept that of this understanding or thought process that it's nobody's fault. That includes yourself. So
Yes. Yeah.
it's not your
Yeah.
fault either. It's nobody's fault. It's just is. We're going through what we're going through, and we're learning, and we're experiencing, and we're growing. But it seems to all be going to this we like this mustard seed in us that we were born with of connection. It all is leading to a greater, grander, more larger group of acceptance. Like you said, would you like to have a larger group? Yeah, that's in us. I think we all want to have this oneness with each other. That it all and I found that the way to realize this is to realize, like you said, that it already is.
And I'd like to share something that helped me a lot is having the intention. It already is, even if I don't know how to get there, even if I don't know um, if it really is like that. Setting the intention that it's already done, and then going about my day, um, smiling at my children, hugging my spouse, waving at my neighbor, all very simple things. And then it kind of manifests. And then, you know, ooh, it happens.
Yeah.
It's some amazing stuff happens indirectly through intention. And when I notice it, and then when I connect it with my intention that I may have set last night, last week, last year, it's like, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah, I think we brought up Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Mm.
and for anybody that's still listening, I hope you are. Lots of people are. Uh, there's a meditation I do daily by Dr. Joe Dispenza that's talking about realizing a vision of our future to not to not live in the beliefs of our past. Um, the Not that they're wrong.
No.
Not that they're wrong. It's that that's not exactly the words. It doesn't. I don't have it written down, but It's not that it's wrong. It's what it does in this meditation is we create what our desire for the future, for our future to be, or what our desire is. What's the desire in us? That whether you can take this any way you want, financially, whatever the case may be, but I like to do this. I like to apply this spiritually, and this inner knowledge or inner seed was, I think it's a great way of putting it, that we are all one, that I think I believe we all desire. When I meditate on this vision of oneness where we live in a community of love, and I allow that experience to become an emotion, then I actualize that emotion now. What would it feel like? What would it be? What would it look like? Capture that emotion and then dwell in that emotion now. In that way, I'm living in that vision right now. In which case, I go out among my day creating in the vision of what I would desire as if it's happening now, which, of course, it actually is, because I've created it in the now. That I do that every morning now.
Super.
I do that every morning now. Yeah. So, and I have it on one of my videos. I'll put it maybe in the comment section here. If you desire something like that, maybe check it out. You might be able to get it online or get his meditations on Amazon or what have you. But I have it here. I'd love it if you would go and maybe we could, virtually be doing this together, and as many people as possible, so we can apply this light to the world, because it's been very freeing for me. I have started to realize, I have come to an intention to not try to live by rules as much as sorry.
Yeah, no. So one of the things that I love is my awareness of the power of language. So you just said, I have come. You are. And that's like setting the intention.
I am. Yeah.
This way. Now, are you really this way? Let's just say, as if Stephen Dawson is fill in the blank. And then those words, right? Those words will manifest. When? Not so sure, but it's a really nice trip, just manifesting. And then when it happens, it happens.
Yeah, I am wealth. I am that we're going to something that I think maybe we'll bring up in our next video. This would be really something I'd love to delve into, but we can lean into it a little bit now. The spirit, if this spirit of oneness we're talking about has a truth to it,
and it does,
right? Well, this oneness would include the desires of all. And there seems to be a desire of all for a lot of things, for security, wealth, health, all the beautiful things that seem to provide joy in our life. Mm-hmm. And when we say, I am joy, I am love, I am wealth, I am secure, we send this to a universe that says, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Yeah. And here's why. And it circulates. That's the word I'm looking for. It's like a circulation of all of these desires going out into the universe, creating this wonderful light of joy and peace and love. And I think it wins.
It does win. It wins, and I love that it wins for me, especially in little micro moments, right? I I'm surrounded by wonderful things. My wife of 23 years, my sons. I mean, you know, people talk about what is it, gratitude. It's like, okay, there's a lot to be grateful for. Now, are you really feeling like you're grateful for it? Maybe, maybe not. But if you go through the process of saying, you know what, I'm grateful that I had breakfast. Pretty good. It's a good start. And just keep walking that walk. Left foot, I'm grateful for something. Right foot, I'm grateful for something. It could be the same thing. Just keep saying the same thing. I'm grateful for breakfast. I'm grateful for breakfast.
Great way
And
to wake up in the morning.
yeah, and it works.
Yeah.
It absolutely works. I promise it works.
Hmm. Yeah, I promise it works as well. Um, I'm probably gonna have to end this off because I'm sure you guys there's a it's a lovely video. I could just go on talking about it forever, but I found that it was activated the gratefulness because I this was a concept in the Christianity that I came attached to when I first started gratefulness. Uh, but it was almost like there was a shame mechanism attached to it. Like you're just not grateful enough. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not but this concept of we are all being one and that love is. I love the way you're putting it because it creates a gratefulness. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, am I grateful enough? Oh, you're if you're grateful even a little bit, a mustard seed, you're grateful enough.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all grateful for something when at some point in some place, and that little gratefulness expands, I find, with the realization that we are already beautiful, we are already joy, we are already love. Then that gratefulness just sort of springs in me, and when I wake up in the morning, am I successful with it or successful all the time? Yes, I am. Do I feel grateful all the time? No, I don't. You understand what I'm saying? I'm successful all the time. Do I feel grateful all the time? No, I don't. So this isn't a rule where if you're not feeling grateful, well, you just got to be grateful.
And that's kind of, it goes back to the going through, right? That I talked about, I don't know, 20 minutes ago in this amazing video. Uh, it's like you got to go through it. So, am I always this way? No, but I know the direction I'm going in.
Yeah. And I would love for you to go through as we are going through this process of love, joy, peace, gratefulness, all of those things together with us. If any of our friends out there would like to do some videos like this with us or with me or with Fintan or by themselves or what have you or your own, please, I would love to. And if you have comments down at the bottom, leave some comments down at the bottom. Apparently, we can spread this love a lot more if we like and subscribe and all that sort of thing like that. It sends an algorithm, which I like that YouTube algorithm because I think that's what we're creating here is this algorithm of love to the world. So if you like it, like it. If you like us, subscribe, and if you want to join in, we would love to have it. I'm thinking about maybe starting some sort of groups together where we can just spread this light to as many people as possible, do discussions, meditations together. Who knows? Who knows? We're just started on the mustard seed. Have a great
Woo!
day.
You too,
Lots of
everybody.
love. Yeah.
Love you.
Love
Take care.
you. Take care.
Thanks. Bye bye.